You got a comb?
Yeah, just scrolling.
Kisco to help out, but he wasn't a builder, he wasn't a mechanic, he wasn't a fabricator. He was a driver. He was a guy that come with a helmet and a suitcase and started driving. You know. But Eddie was one of those that he didn't know the mechanics of the car, but whatever way the car drove, that's the way he drove it to make a run. The car was doing something different, he compensated for it and ran. That's the way he drove. And that's when they had that Hal Russell Memorial race, the first one. I believe this must have been a 50 lapper, I think.
Probably.
And if I recall, it was kind of a wet track, and there was nobody who was better on a wet track than Kisco. He was a wet track driver. For some reason, as a wet track slipper, he could outrun just about anybody. And he was kind of like, he reminded me a lot of Snars. He didn't get rattled, he didn't get shook up. You see wrecks happening a lap ahead of time. He never got in wrecks. Eddie didn't. If you took a car up there, he never got in a wreck. He just always took it home in one piece. And Bobby was that way too. You're just cool and calm. Things that happen, they get excited or can't pass somebody, they just calm. I think that must have had something to do why they had that little edge, you know.
Was that a big deal that a guy from Kane, Pennsylvania, Eddie Kisco, won the Hal Russell Memorial? Do you remember any conversation regarding that?
Not to anybody else. It was a big deal to us down here. You know, we were all excited about it. I remember watching that race, and Lee and I, we were jumping up and down. Thought we were going to wet our pants or something. And because he come out, we didn't think he was going to win it because they were three of them run together. It was Squirt and Eddie and I can't remember for sure. There was another car or two was pretty close. And he dogged Squirt for lap after lap, and he got him coming out of the fourth turn on the last lap. Passed him for that, won that race. That's the one where the trophy is there. And the kind of unique thing about that was that that was Hal's motor in that car. And Hal's motor won the first 50 lapper.
What he did differently than the rest of the owners?
Well, he did a lot more thinking than most people. The rest of it just bolted into everything and started working. Frank always thought about everything.
Right.
And he was just us. He was just had that little cigar and a little derby hat, and he was just a cool guy to us kids, you know. And he seemed to like kids and help them out whenever they could. Mm-hmm. And he did an awful lot for us, you know, telling us that otherwise without him, you know, other guys, most of them don't want to tell you too much. It was hard to get information from anybody. There's no place to read on it, no place to go to school.
Right.
You had to learn it yourself. And he always helped us out.
What was his technique in lightening up the car?
He got every little piece out of it that looked like that he could get away with cutting it out of it. Right. He scraped all the undercoating off of it. He cut nuts in half. He had us cutting nuts in half to put on shock absorbers. It didn't even have a washer on. We were doing okay and making a little bit of money in expenses. And that god darn bunch from squealed on us, figured out what we was doing. Dave Turner and his bunch. We had a good thing going, and they figured out what we was doing. They line you up according to points and how you did the week before. And if you get a good starting spot in the front, like say 5, 6 places up, you get a good finish, you know, and take home a little bit of cash. And once in a while, you'd fall into a feature, you know, and win one. So when you did well, the next week you come back, they put you in the back of the pack. So we thought, we started running different nights. On Saturday night, if we did go to Stateline one night, we knew he was going to be in the back, so we'd go down to Knox and run down there. Or we'd go down to Clearfield and run the night. And then you come back the next night, you didn't do so well, so they'd put you back up front again. So every time we had front row starting spots all the time. And Turner's bunch went and squealed on us. They told him what we was doing. And so then, if you didn't run the week before, you went to the back. They made you come every week then.
You made a rule, it's just for you.
They made a rule, yeah.
In your world, what was Tom Dill's reputation?
Tom, I didn't mind Tom. I didn't know him too well. But you knew if he was racing beside him, you wasn't going to finish a race. If you were in front of him. You weren't going to finish in front of him. If he could get a fender on you, you wasn't going to finish. We had a 50 lapper. It was a qualifier for the end of the year. That one at Motordrome. Remember the Motordrome race you used to run? That track's still there?
Yeah, it's asphalt. Yeah.
Well, every year they had a big invitational down there, and they had a qualifier at Stateline. It was 50 lapper. No, it was Erie. Erie it was, yeah. You were there. Remember Ken run that whole race? It was him, and Dill was right behind him, Snars, and I think Jim Scott. They run the last 20 laps of that race, and Ken was running pretty good that night, and he was out in front. He was running just a lane just up from the bottom, you know, and he was really running good and holding his lane, and they was neck and neck the whole race, and Dill kept getting up beside him on the inside. There was only a couple laps to go, and I'm standing there watching the race, and he'd jump up, he's going to win that, he's going to win that. And he said, aren't you getting excited? I said, no, he's not going to win it. What do you mean he's not going to win it? Look at it. I said, Dill's beside him, he's not going to let him come out of that last turn. Last turn, Dill come up and pushed him up right out the outside, and he ended up about fifth or something like that. If he won that, it'd have been a qualifier, because we always went to qualify for that race and could never get in it, you know. I said, see, I told you. You're no use getting excited over something that's not going to happen. The bus die, and right there on the left there's a little garage. They've changed it now. It's a 2-stall garage. There's a little house right in there. That's where they had both cars in there one day. I was in there one day, and they was trying to set up the car. We walked in, and here's Whitey sitting there with a torch, taking the leaf springs, heating the springs, dropping it, trying to get the right height in this car. He turned around and looked and see what we were doing. He wasn't real happy about somebody coming in there. First feature we won on that Plymouth. Kenny was running ahead, got a good head start. I don't remember what year it was, but Floyd was running second. And he wasn't gaining on him. Ken was holding his distance and maybe even gaining a little bit. And after the race, Floyd comes over and he says, yeah, he says, I'm glad to see you win your first feature. He says, I thought about catching you and passing you, but I knew you never won one, so I let you have that. Yeah, Floyd, sure you did.
I don't think
Anyway, another one time was, we had a heck of a battle with Hellman. He had that blue Roadrunner then at the time. And after the race was over, he'd come over and he's holding one of them double belt pulleys off your crankshaft, you know. And in those days, we didn't use belt tighteners or anything. You just put 2 belts on there, and you put them on too, and you had to force them on, get them on, keep them tight. And he come over and he handed it to Ken. He says, here, he says, if it wouldn't have been for this, he says, I'd have passed you. And because he had got it stuck in his radiator and it was overheating. Ken took a look at it. If I'd have had that on my car, he says, I'd have been a lot further ahead. It was ours. It fell off.
Honest?
Yeah. Ken's got it hanging in his garage. Now, I had it for years.
that's a funny story.
That's a good one.
And I gave it to Ken. He's got it up in his garage yet,
No
the bent pulley. The only time I drove, they had a mechanics race up there, up there. And,
Really?
yeah, and they wanted me to go out, and I said, all right, I'd do it. Well, Ken, you know, he's only about that big around, about 140 pounds. And once they got me shoehorned into that thing, and I had my knees up, I couldn't run the clutch and shift gears, and I couldn't hardly run the brake, and the steering wheel's up here. So I thought, I'll go out and try it. They said, stay low and go fast, you know. They come in, they're all laying on the ground, laughing, rolling around. What in the world was the matter? They'd laughing at me. Said, you were the slowest guy out there. He said, you're going high and doing exactly what we told you not to do. They said, couldn't even finish, I'd have finished last in the powder puff, they said.